Welcome back to the Cindy Co Show. Today we're talking about gearing up for video production. The question I get asked most often is, what equipment should I buy? And it's a really hard question because there's a lot of stuff out there. Everything from camera to audio to lighting, even grip and electric. To make this a little easier to digest, I've broken it down into 3 tiers. A low starting out tier, a medium kind of build up to that type tier, and a Mega Pro tier. Now obviously with the Mega Pro, you're probably going to be a rental house or a massive production company that uses that type of stuff all the time. But for the medium and the low, these are things that if you're in a corporation and you're an in-house video guys, these are the ways that I started out, and they're a great way to kind of build up your gear to the point where you don't need to rent as much and you have basically what you need to shoot most of your shoots. So to start off, let's start with the lowest tier. All right, buying gear. This is a very exciting part. Everyone loves talking about gear. I love talking about gear. I love gear. So let's jump into gear. All right, first up, camera. Now, when I'm telling people to start out that are just starting out, I always say, try to find a camera that's fairly inexpensive that meets your needs. And my suggestion as of today would be the M50. Now, what I have in my hand here is the T2i. So this was the cheap 7D. This was my first DSLR that I bought. And I love this thing. You can see like right away on the side, the rubber handle has come off, the rubber piece here has come off, the eyepiece is gone, there's some scratches, and I have used this thing to death. I've loved this thing. Now the reason I would say go with a cheaper camera is because it will be obsolete quickly, and upgrading a camera is something that's easier to convince people, especially your boss or your supervisor or whatever, in the future to say, hey, I want to upgrade my camera to something a little better. So now the reason I say go with Canon is Canon mounts are a little more universal as far as what you can adapt to on professional cameras like the Blackmagic, Red, and Arri Alexa all have mounts that are EF mounts on their cameras. Now the M50 doesn't have an EF mount, it has a different mount altogether. It's the Canon's new mount. However, you can get an adapter for that to be able to mount lenses. So it's a great way to start off. Also, all your lenses can then go up with you. So that jumps into the next point, lenses. Now again, with lenses, they can break the bank really quickly. I would highly recommend spending more on or investing more in than you would a camera. That being said, I started out very poor and unable to afford much. My father-in-law had an old film camera that he had these old lenses for, so I bought an adapter. He let me have the lenses. I bought an adapter. It adapts to the camera really easily, and you're good to go. You got 2 lenses that are fantastic. Now I found that these vintage lenses produce some of my favorite looks that I could get at the time, and I still think they're really fun to work with. You can find them really cheap on eBay or thrift stores. I think I found a couple that were like 10 bucks a piece. They were super cheap. Now, like I said, investing in lenses is important, and I'll get more into this when we get to the mid-range, but to kind of tee off the mid-range, this is the lens of choice for 90% of people on YouTube. But it's for a good reason. It's a great lens, and it's decently priced. This is the Sigma 18-35. It's 800 bucks. It's a great lens. I did a whole review on this one, link in the cards, whatever above. I would highly recommend this lens. It's a great investment. 700 bucks gets you a fairly diverse lens, having 18-35. But if you're looking to get something that doesn't break the bank of $800, again, go to eBay, get some vintage lenses for 50 bucks. So that's kind of the breakdown of lenses. I'll go into that a lot more when we go into the bigger stuff. So that's camera. Now the support for camera, you need a tripod. This tripod is the Be Free Manfrotto tripod. It's a great compact, easy to use tripod. The reason I like this one and the reason I suggest this one to most people starting out is it is very inexpensive. It has a makeshift ball head on the top, and it also has the shaft in the middle. It is a little cheap. The head's not super fluid, but it's a good starting tripod. Now, again, just like with lenses, tripods will last you forever. I invested in a tripod like 8 years ago for $1,500, and I still have it, and it's still just as good. This camera that I invested $800 in is basically obsolete now. No, like I'm not gonna shoot much on this camera at all. So that's camera department. Pretty exciting, right? Camera department, woo, yeah, you shoot stuff, cool. Moving on. All right, now I wanna go into audio. Audio is something that I highly recommend you don't skimp out on. I've seen a lot of people say, oh, you can do a hot shoe Rode mic on top of your camera. That works pretty well if you're running gun, if you're a YouTuber or a vlogger. If you're shooting stuff for corporate, I would highly recommend, first buy that I did, lavs. This is the Sennheiser's wireless lav system. This is what I used for the first year, basically. And then after that, when you start shooting stuff on set and doing a lot more set stuff, typically I hire sound. Like I've said before, most of my interviews, I hire sound now. It's hard to monitor sound and camera at the same time, so I highly recommend that. But when you're shooting stuff like in your studio or a little smaller or a little more running gun, I highly recommend the NTG3 or 2. Now the 2 is a little less expensive, which is 500 bucks. This one's a little more expensive. The whole kit was 1,000. Now again, microphones, just like tripods, just like lenses, or actually probably more than lenses, microphones, they just never go obsolete. These suckers will last you forever. So if you invest in a microphone, I would highly recommend the NTG3 from Rode. It's a great microphone, it works awesome. Okay, and then in the kit also came the dead cat, which you stick over top of it, and you got yourself a sweet, sweet microphone, yeah. Okay, invest in a Zoom H5N, or they have the H6 now, or H5 and H6. This sucker's awesome. You can plug in your audio into it. You're recording separately. It gives you cleaner, nicer audio than when you're plugging into your camera. You have a lot more control over levels, a lot easier to monitor it. You can record on multiple tracks. Very, very handy. Highly recommend that. All right, so now let's jump into lighting. When people are asking me, hey, what light should I buy? There's so many lights out there, and there's ridiculous amounts of lights you can buy. The lights I suggest to people, because they're so incredibly inexpensive, they're LED, they have a lot of different options, and bicolor is the Dracast. I think that's what they call it, Dracast. These things put out a decent amount of light. They're very light, they're very compact, they're easy to move around. They make a lot of different varieties of these lights, so that's awesome. If I can get this thing off. Yeah, so it's really light, really compact, thin. It puts out a decent looking light. And the other thing that's awesome about this thing is the option of a V-mount battery on the back. Whoop! There we go, V-mount battery on the back. And then you can just turn it to battery. Woo! Bright me up. And you can see that I have a nice bright light. Shing! And again, completely dimmable. It dims down to 10%. But the nice thing about this light is just how soft it is. It gives a nice, here, let's throw it on my face here. Dim it down to 10. It gives just a nice soft glow on everything. And it's super inexpensive. I mean, if you get just the daylight balanced one, I think it's like 250 bucks, 300 bucks for the light, which is awesome. With all this functionality, that's pretty amazing. I think the bicolor is like 500. So if you want the ability to switch between tungsten and daylight, this is great. There's a ton of other lighting out there, obviously. This is just kind of the basics of it. So that's the breakdown of like the low cost, very low level. You got your camera, you got your tripod, you got your audio, and you got your lighting. That's it. I don't usually suggest to people to buy gimbals right away. I don't suggest to people to buy sliders right away. I usually say just start with a tripod, camera, lighting, audio, that's it. Like a simple light, simple camera, and then nicer audio. I always tell people to invest in nicer audio rather than nicer cameras, because that audio will last you. You'll switch out this camera 15 times and you'll still have the same microphone. So there's that. Well, I hope that was helpful. I know this is really low cost, and a lot of you will probably have a lot of comments about other cameras or other gear that you like better. Please put them in the comments below. I'd love to hear anyone who's found great use cases, or hey Micah, you're an idiot, this is all wrong. That's fine. It probably is. This is what I have found as what I've suggested to people that are first starting out, and how to get the best looking stuff and at a really low cost. Now, the other thing that I would probably add to this would be maybe 2 more lights from the Dreamcast, some extra stands, and maybe some V-mount batteries. V-mount batteries are great because those definitely move up with you through all of your camera gears into the professional gear. You can also use it to help power everything and anything. Anyway, I hope this was helpful. Thanks so much for watching. A lot of things have been happening in my personal life that's been very difficult for me to make these videos. This will probably be my last one for quite a while due to some medical issues that are happening in my family. Rest assured, I will get back to it eventually. I probably won't get to the mid-range or the high tier for quite a while, which is fine because there's a bunch of cameras being announced and a whole bunch of new stuff coming out. So when that comes out, I'll be sure to update it and make sure it's up to date for all those new types of cameras. Anyways, thanks so much, guys. Appreciate it. Thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe and check out my other videos. Thanks so much.